All right, welcome. This is Checkmate Flips. Today, we're going to be talking about how to actually make a profit in your Amazon selling business or even your eBay selling business, if that's what you do. This is going to help whether you're selling on eBay, whether you're selling on Amazon, whether you're selling on Facebook Marketplace, whatever business model you're doing, this will be helpful. And we're going to be talking through numbers on how to actually make sure that we're making a profit in what we're doing, that we're not just spinning our wheels and wasting a bunch of time and not actually making any profit. So I'm going to share a screen and we're going to talk through a few things. I'll be writing some things down in this Google Doc here, how to actually make a profit. So basically, the very first thing that we need to do is actually understand what business model we're trying to do. There's so many different ways to make money online. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I'll just tell some stories about ways that I've made money and some of the progress in my journey and how I've heard other people make money to kind of get the gears spinning if you're trying to think of a business model. And soon we'll talk about other practical details of how to actually make a profit if you already have a business model. So the very first way that I got started reselling was I sold used clothing and I sold used clothing on Depop. So basically, I'm going to make the font a little bigger. Used clothing, and where I bought from was thrift stores, and I sold, where did I sell? Depop. So Depop is, this was back in 2018. It's still around. Basically, it's, as you can tell, it's kind of like a kind of fashionable for teenage college people. You can sell like a lot of vintage type stuff on here. My little brother got started on this site. And he was the one who came home on Mother's Day and he was like, hey, I'm making another $600 a month while I was in school. Selling used clothing on Depop. So basically what he'd do is he'd go to the thrift store. He would find vintage stuff. He would kind of look it up and see what other people are selling it for. And then he would sell it himself if it actually makes sense to do so. So still, even with this business model, you have to have the foundation of understanding how much money you're going to make if you actually sell something. So this is kind of the very foundational skill to reselling. And the very foundational skill before you do almost anything else is how much money am I going to make if I sell and ship something? So without that knowledge, like none of this can be done. You have to get very, very good at understanding, okay, if I pick up this item and I sell this item for $20, let's say, what are the fees going to be on this website? How much is shipping going to be on this website? How much is my cost of goods? So I'm going to write these things down. You want to understand fees. You want to understand the cost of goods. Probably shipping first. So we'll go over, I mean, you kind of need to just look these up based on your website. There's a couple of different, I mean, they're all different on every single site. They're different on Depop than eBay. And then they're also different on Amazon versus eBay. So and whether you sell on Poshmark, 𝗦cie, whatever it is, you're going to have your fees. You need to understand what your fees are. So just do a quick Google search and understand what your fees are on the site. So let's say it's Depop. You would go Depop, how much are selling fees? So there's a 10% Depop fee for selling on Depop. But then on Amazon, it's a little bit more complicated. And that sometimes trips people up. So I'm going to kind of show you how to do that real quick. So let's say we wanted to sell this 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗹 Plus. We'll do, let's say we found a silver edition. Let's say we're thrifting. Thrifting is our business model. And we didn't find a new one, but we found one that we could classify as used good. So just very basically, we see that people are pricing used good ones at around, we'll call it $35. So what I like to use is I use something like 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗹 or Reselling. I just started using Reselling earlier, so I'm more comfortable with it, to calculate how much money you're actually going to get when you actually sell something. There are also free Amazon calculators, but if you're in the Amazon game to actually make some money, you should probably have something like this. So we're just going to use this for now. If we sell this at $35, everything goes according to plan, we're going to get $25 back. And so from there, we need to actually understand, okay, with fees, $10 is coming out of this particular sale. It's going to be different with every single transaction. And a calculator like this also takes into account shipping. In your settings, there's going to be a per pound estimate for your shipping. So that's part of it as well. And then also your cost of goods. So let's say this was at the thrift store and it was price tagged at $28. Now suddenly we're losing $3 if we were to sell this. So that's not a good deal. We don't make $7 on this because we sold it for $35. There are fees. So we actually have to understand, okay, if we bought this, let's say they priced it at $10. Suddenly we're making $15 profit and 151% ROI. That could be really, really worth doing. But you just need to understand what you're getting yourself into on every single purchase that you make. So this is going to be really, really basic to people who are a bit more advanced, and we're going to advance a little bit more, probably pretty quickly at some point. But these foundational things are super, super important. You need to understand this for every single thing that you sell. So another example, let's say we found, let's say we were selling on Depop, for example, and we have a 10% fee, and we found some Carhartt double knee pants. And let's say we were able to sell them, we'll call it like $40. We sold for $40. This is very helpful too. If you are going to sell on Depop or eBay, you need to understand a little bit about shipping, because when you sell it, you're going to have to ship the item to the customer. So we're just going to pull up just a generic calculator here. Let's say we sell for 40. We have that 10% fee. So 90% of 40 is $36. And then a cool thing that we can do is, if we don't know how much shipping is going to be, we can estimate that with Pirate Ship, you can create a free label. Let's say I'm just typing a random person, some random person will pop up. So let's say I'm shipping to California. You can go ahead and enter your dimensions here. So once we put these pants in probably a poly bag or a box, it'll probably be like 12 inches by 10 inches. You can just do hypothetical stuff and it'll weigh 2 pounds. You can understand what the rates are going to be, probably around $8 to $12. So even lower now, which is really nice. So we're going to subtract 681 from this 36. So that's how much money we're going to get back after the sale. And then let's say we paid $10 for this. $19 is our profit. So when you're at the thrift store or when you're about to buy these, in whatever situation you're doing, you should do this math real quick. Just be like, okay, like the comps are showing me $40, which we'll talk about comps in a second. My fees are going to be 90%. I'm going to get 90% back. So we're going to have 36 after I sell it for this price. And then shipping is going to be around $7. And then my cost of goods is $10. So $19 profit. And just make sure to be doing this calculation on everything that you're doing. And also to do the very next thing that I'm going to be showing you how to do, which is actually understanding if something is actually going to sell. Because we don't want to just pick up stuff and be like, oh, people are selling this for $35. We need to actually validate that stuff sells. So this is probably the second foundational skill to typos. The second foundational skill to reselling, which is looking up sold comps. So you're going to have to do this on whatever site you do. You're going to do these two things together to actually understand how much am I going to make, and is this item actually going to sell for the price I think it is. So let's say, again, we were going to sell Carhartt double knee pants on eBay. Carhartt. So you can get a little bit more specific and type in the size and the color and stuff if you want to. But if you just at a very basic level, you just select your condition and you see, okay, there's 4,200 results like this in the last, are listed right now. But what you can do, I'll probably just do best match here. So 4,300 results. But what we can do is we don't necessarily, like, all these people are listed at like $70 almost. But what we really care about is how many solds there are and how what price they're actually selling for. So we can scroll down here to sold and completed items. So you check that, and we see that 5,700 of these double knee Carhartts have sold in the last 90 days. This is of the last 90 days. So if you list these, you could expect that if your listing's good, it should sell within 90 days. If you're around these prices. So we're seeing 26 plus 15, 46 plus 10, $40, $34. And it goes on and on and on. And you probably want to find something that is closest to your item. This is how it's going to go if you're doing used items on eBay. If you're on Amazon, again, we'll take a look at another 𝗦ci𝗰𝗶 calculator, this black CE color. So this is the second tool that I strongly recommend for people who are selling on Amazon, especially if you're paying up for your items. If you're just thrifting, you could probably get away with not using this, but this will save you a lot of money in the long run. And this is 𝗦ci𝗰𝗶. And so it looks like we're stock trading. It looks like there's all this complicated stuff going on. But at a very basic level, not too much is going on here. And we just need to understand two basic data points. So I'm just going to zoom in and uncheck a bunch of things, make this graph a little bigger. And yeah, so if you're selling used items, this black line is what you're going to want to be looking at. That's the used item price at any given point. If you're selling new items, this pink line is the buy box. And that's where most of the sales come through. So at any given point in the last year, these are what the prices, the lowest price has been at that time. And then the other thing to pay attention to here, we don't really need this for now. We want to pay attention to this green line. So this green line is the sales rank on Amazon, and every item on Amazon has a sales rank. And the closer to 0 it is, the faster it sells. So this item at the moment is ranked 250 in office products. So that's very close to 0 in the grand scheme of things. There are hundreds of thousands of items in each category. This item actually sells very, very quickly. So with that being said, we can know that if we have a new one priced at 110.80 at this given time, it would probably sell within a couple minutes, most likely, depending on how many sellers on the listing, et cetera, et cetera. Like literally, this will absolutely fly. But something, let's see here. What could we look up? Maybe a 𝗦ci𝗰𝗶 solar. Trying to find something that's a little bit slower to show you difference. I don't think it's a TI-84. TI Solar. Maybe this is a little slower. Yeah, this is a little slower. Okay, so this is 123K in office products. You see on a slower item, if we zoom into a month, it doesn't stay as low as it did before. Sometimes it's pretty low, but you'll see that the line goes up and down and up and down and up and down. When the line goes down like that, most likely there was a sale at that point. And when the line is going up, like it went up for several days and not much happened for several days, there may not have been a sale for several days on this listing whatsoever. So that's a very basic rundown of 𝗦𝗶𝗶𝗹. I'm not going to get super in depth here, but basically the very main thing is you need to understand how much money am I going to make if I sell something, and is it actually going to sell, and at what price? So those are the very foundational skills of reselling. If you just do that and look up the price of items and understand how to ship stuff, that's a great way to get started and make money. But yeah, those are the very foundational skills. So at the very beginning, and I'm going to stop sharing screen and check on chat for a second, but at a very foundational level, you need to actually have those skills down. Because if you don't have those skills down, then you're going to end up buying something for 20 bucks and you're only going to sell it for 30 bucks. And then your shipping is going to be $15. And suddenly you're losing money when you have sold the item. Or even worse, you're going to pick up something that just doesn't sell at all because you saw someone had it listed for $50. But the sell-through rate is really, really, really slow. And it's not actually going to sell in a quick amount of time. So let's say, well, I'm going to talk about another business model that I've done that works well for me. I did this back in 2020 and 21, which was selling used clothing and shoes on eBay. So that's like another variant of this business model. Except eBay is a better platform than Depop, in my opinion. There's just more customers. So that's another basic thing to do. And the good thing about both of these models is that you don't need a ton of money to get started. Like literally with Depop, I bought 10 pairs of shirts for, I think I spent like $21. And that's just how I got started. You don't need a ton of money to get started with this. You need to just find some items and list the items on the platform and learn how to ship items. But the cool thing about eBay is that you can do this for a bunch of different models, a bunch of different types of items. I was selling like cowboy boots, hiking boots, like Nike stuff, sweaters, jackets, just a bunch of different stuff. And you don't even have to just do used clothing. There's so much you can sell on eBay. If you're watching this channel, you probably know that I buy stuff off of eBay sellers and sell it on Amazon for my full-time business. And that's a great model to do. But the thing is if you jump straight into something like that or like wholesale or something, the mistakes are much harder on yourself. So like, for example, if you're selling stuff on eBay and you buy a pair of cowboy boots for $5 and they just don't sell, you're out $5. Like, it's not the end of the world. You would have gone to Starbucks anyway and spent that $5. But if I go on, do eBay to Amazon and I find a lot of like 7, I don't know what the heck I would sell. I don't even know half the things that I sell, but if I find 7 items that are like $200 each and I spent $1,400 and I make a mistake and don't realize that the item actually doesn't sell, and I look at the data wrong when I'm looking at the 𝗦𝗶𝗶𝗹 graph, suddenly I'm out $1,400. So you do need to work your way up a little bit in these things, because or just don't spend as much money per transaction, because like when you're spending a good amount of money on a transaction, you just want to be sure that you're uh, actually right. And that's why I emphasize these foundational skills, because like once you've done this 100 times, you could be like, okay, like I sold a pair of let's say I was doing books and I sold a book on Amazon for $150 and it sold within a week of when I sold it. Like that's a great sale. But then once you've actually sold an item and you did your analysis and you see from your seller account that you sold the item for $150, this is one of my first online arbitrage flips that I ever did successfully. I thrifted this book. I think it was this one. Yeah, this one. Ooh, market's changed on this one. But in the past, it was up over $100. Yeah, like even earlier this year, it was up over $100. So, and like sometimes even used condition ones are a little higher as well. So let's say back in May, I thrifted this item and I sold a used like new one for $125. Like I unlocked the belief that I could sell this book, this 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗶 for $125 and get back $101. And if I go on eBay and I find one that's listed for $80, but I send a lowball offer and I send a lowball offer for like 56 and they accept, I am quite confident that I can make $45 on this book. And that's a nice little way to ease yourself into doing more of an arbitrage type model is when you sell something that's an absolute banger like this, like if you find this at a thrift store for $2 and especially back here, now it's not as big of a deal because there's a ton of used people on this listing right now. But if you find this in the past, you sold it for this price and you had time to buy another one and sell another one, that's a great confidence boost to be like, okay, I think I'm willing to pay $56 in order to make $45 on this because I've already sold this before. And then once you see that you've done this before, maybe you look at your catalog and you're like, I also sold this DVD for $100. I think I'd be willing to pay $51 for that and make another $30 profit. And from there, you can start to move into another business model, which I do right now, which is eBay to Amazon. And so with this, it's going to be requiring a lot more inventory capital than these business models here. Because these business models here, maybe you're going to the thrift store and paying $5 to $10 an item. Maybe you're going to the flea market and paying $2 an item. Maybe you do estate sales and you're buying $5 an item. Maybe you do free pickups and you're getting free stuff. But eBay to Amazon, almost all the time you're going to be paying more than a thrift store and often quite a bit more per item. And you have to be pretty precise because you do need to make sure that the stuff actually sells. So you need to be good with your data. Basically you need to understand, okay, like how much capital do I have to allocate to this business? How much skill do I have? Because, if you're just getting started with this, maybe you should try to do like, continue doing your thrifting model, continue doing your books, your DVDs, and just try to do a couple of these flips and, analyze them after you've done them. You did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flips and you analyze them. You understood what you did right. You understood what you did wrong. Maybe you move up to doing 10 flips. Then maybe suddenly your monthly allowance of how much you can spend on these types of flips is $500, and you can just slowly increase that over time. And then once you're locked into a business model that you like, I'm going to explain how to gradually improve your profit per month in your business model. But first, I'm going to check the comments, make sure that nobody is commenting here. We got 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗹 and Barbies. Yeah, that's I honestly haven't sold much of either of those, but I hear great things about those. But regardless of what business model you do, going back here, in all of these business models, I measure my success by the inputs into my business. I'm just going to put this closer to the top of the page here. Because if I'm out here trying to make a profit selling on Depop or eBay, and I list like 10 items and a couple things sell, but I also paid for like my poly bags and my boxes. And after I spent like $100 on those things, your costs of supplies and all that, and then only like 70 profit sells because you only listed a couple items, like you've lost $30 and a bunch of time. So like you want to actually make sure that you're listing profit into your store on a very regular basis. So maybe at the start you're like, okay, I am kind of not sure what reselling is. I don't have tons of belief around it. I just want to see if stuff sells. Awesome. Like that's the way that you should get started. But just know, like if you list 5-10 items and they're just kind of mediocre items, you're probably not going to be making an amazing profit right off the start. And that's okay. But you'll get the belief that like, okay, when I list items that sell, that there's good data behind them, like they're actually going to sell, like the sell-through rate and the keep it graph that I was talking about before. So let's say, like for me, for example, when I was doing selling used clothing, I was doing this part-time when I was a student, and I would try to list $500 of potential profit into my store every single week. So per month, that's $2,000 of potential profit. And I would try to slowly increase that number. So when I mean potential profit, let's go back to the Carhartt double knee example. So if we were to buy for $10 and profit $19, that's $19 of potential profit. Because it hasn't sold yet, we just picked it up, we listed it. We think we're going to sell it for $40, and we plan on selling it for $19 profit. So adding everything that I buy and source and list together, $500 per week of potential profit was my goal. And so from there, once you do that, and you do that specifically, you have to do this with items that actually show a good sell-through rate. Whether you're selling on eBay or Amazon, you don't want to just list potential profit and like, yeah, maybe this will sell in like 9 months. You know what I mean? Because if you do that, then like your stuff's not even selling quickly, and you're going to have a really hard time getting momentum with this. But if you, if you list stuff where like on, let's go back to these solar, TI solar. I don't know a ton about these solar calculators, but we'll just click into this. Let's see what the sales rank on this is. Oh, this is a set of 10. This is not what we're looking for here. Yeah. Let's just go. Let's say we found something like this. So this is like pretty high rank, but also a good thing about this is not many people are selling this. So this is a little nuanced example of like, even though it's a high sales rank, when people list it, it does end up selling. Like this guy, they listed for $18.94. Nobody else was in stock, and after March 10th to April 10th, he got the sale in a month. So this is something that's good. But you don't want to go on a listing like this where there's like 20 people on this listing, because you can see that if there were 20 people on this listing, there's way too much supply for the demand on this item. We can see here on this item, there's not that much demand on it. In the past, I think there was. But if it's a high sales rank in general, just a beginner tip, there's not that much demand. Even though, interestingly enough, this would probably be a good eBay to Amazon item, because oftentimes it's out of stock, and when it comes back in stock, there are people searching for this item. It's not like a super expensive item either, so actually maybe we'll just go try to find one. But you want to make sure that you're listing stuff that's going to sell, and you're going to be able to get more precise and understand if stuff's going to sell as you get more experience. But the main thing is you want to be listing potential profit of stuff that's actually going to sell. And so once you have that habit down and you can do that consistently, maybe the next week you could do 575 of potential profit in a week. And like, let's say you did 500 in potential profit, and you've done this for a couple weeks, you can start to actually look and be like, okay, I listed 500 potential profit per week. And in this last month, I ended up making around $350 per week. So if that's the case, and you look at your business numbers and you see, okay, when I list 500 per week, I end up profiting about 350 per week. So 350 divided by 500 is about 0.7. So 70% of, if you're wanting to make, let's say you wanted to make 1,000 a month, and you saw that when you listed 500 a week, 375 sells, you would know then that in the ballpark, $1,000 profit goal per month. So I would need to do 1,000 divided by 0.7. I would need to list 1428 in potential profit. As like you can see, 1428 times 0.7 is about 1,000. So you can know that you need to list a little bit more than what you're trying to make in order to actually hit your goals. And so once you kind of have that knowledge dialed in a little bit, you can kind of understand, okay, like if I'm trying to make 500 profit a month, like maybe I need to overshoot it a little bit. I don't just list $250 potential profit a week and like hope for the best. I should probably try and do something like 350 or 450 in potential profit a week, because if I overshoot it and I actually sell a little bit less, but I still get results, I actually end up hitting my goal. So I'm curious if anybody actually has any questions about this so far. But basically, once, like whatever business model you're in, you can keep improving on this basis. You could do this per week, you could do this per month, really doesn't matter. But the way to improve in a reselling business is, how can I list and ship more potential profit per week and month, and in a smaller amount of time as well. So as you do this on a more serious part-time basis and on a full-time basis, you can start to understand how much time does it take for me to actually list an item? How much time does it take for me to ship an item once it's sold? And you can, like, these are really valuable lessons to learn. Like, as you continue getting better at reselling, you might find like a big vacuum cleaner or something. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's going to make me $50 profit. So you take pictures of it, and like, man, it really took a long time to take pictures of, because like the thing's so awkward and clunky. So it took you 20 minutes to list it. And then it sold and you're so happy and it was $50 profit. But you realize that you don't have the right boxes for it and you're not super set up to ship something that big. And it ends up taking you 40 minutes to ship it, and it ends up costing you like another $25 in order to sell it. So instead of making the $50 profit that you thought, it ends up only making you $20, $25 profit. And it took you like a lot more time than you were suspecting. And so maybe at that point you realize, okay, like I need to actually sell items that I know and I'm comfortable taking pictures of and shipping. Because those types of choices really affect how much potential profit you can list and ship per week. You're trying to make your business infrastructure as smooth as possible in order to be able to process as much potential profit that sells as possible. So for me, for example, right now, my current goal per month is I'm trying to list $33,600 of potential profit per month. So that is with me doing eBay to Amazon. I'm wanting to find $33,600 of potential profit to list and sell per month. I'm not as granular of a reseller to be like, okay, I'm looking for $10 profit items or $50 profit items or $100 profit items. I have items in my store that are like $8, $9 profit. And oftentimes those are the ones that I found multiple units of. And then there are also items in my store that are $2, $3, $4, $500 profit on occasion. So one word of advice is, if you are trying to improve in your business, especially if you're doing arbitrage, doing a little bit higher average selling price, ASP, is really helpful. Because let's say you're just buying random stuff from thrift stores and like, yeah, it's only like $1 or $2, but you're having to sell it for $10, $15, $17. You're having to do the photos, or for Amazon, whatever you have to do based on your FBA or FBM, and you're having to ship it, all for that little bit of profit. You're probably not making that much profit per item. And so if you have like $6 profit items, it's really hard to especially build up to a number like this if you're doing a random one item $6 profit item. But suddenly, if you are doing $50 potential profit items, or if you buy 15 of an item that is $10 profit each, suddenly that's $150 potential profit. And like, if you do the math on that particular example, 33,600 divided by $150 potential profit, I would need to do 224 of the $150 potential profit flips in order to do that in a month. So you can break it down however you want. And like, this isn't something that I just like rolled over in bed and was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do 33,000 potential profit in a month. Like I said, with eBay, I started with like, okay, like let's see if I can find and list $300 potential profit. And then like at that point, I was literally walking over to the library printer in order to actually ship my items and print off the labels per each transaction. So like that worked fine when I got a sale every 3 days, and that wasn't a problem. But like as I started getting sales every day, like I had to make a 7-minute walk over to the library, and suddenly like, I'm taking like nearly a half hour per unit in order to just ship my items. I wonder if I got like at least some kind of printer or thermal printer, how much faster I would be able to process and sell more items. And so by making improvements like that in your business over time, like let's say you're still using the Amazon Seller Central to list your items instead of something like GoToLister or Inventory Lab. Suddenly you're able to list double as fast, and you can actually list all the books you found, or all the thrift items you found, or all your eBay to Amazon items in a day instead of it taking 2-3 days, or in an hour of your scale instead of 2-3 hours, or for whatever it is. Like you suddenly are able to have the capacity to do more in a smaller amount of time. And that's the name of the game. Like how can you make micro improvements over time? I started selling in 2019. It's 2024 now. You make small improvements over time, and like you're like, why am I still listing and selling and only making like $600 profit per month? But if you keep making those improvements over time, suddenly you get your degree and things really start to catapult in the right direction. So I'm going to stop sharing screen. But yeah, that's kind of the blueprint for how to actually improve and make a profit in your business. Real quick, since we were already talking about this, I'm going to see if we can just find a little potential profit of this item. So I'm curious, this guy, he's in stock at 34. He's selling for 34. He has a ton of stock. So we'd have to match him here, which is fine. But we're just gonna see if we can just find a little flip to just show the idea of eBay to Amazon. So I'm gonna filter by new. So, yeah, so this is, it's gonna be profitable here. Not that profitable, but 1980. I mean, this is a nice little 28% ROI, flip $5 profit each. And the nice thing about it is he has 7 available. And so an eBay to Amazon thing that you can do, well, you want to make sure it's the same item first. So 𝗦elle334F. So this isn't the same item. So we wouldn't want to do this, but basically for the example's sake is you can message this guy and say, hey, like I might be interested in buying the rest of your stock. Like, do you have a discount? And maybe he replies and says he can do 15 or 16. And so suddenly it's a $9 profit per unit item, and you get like 7 of them. What was it? 7 here. And like suddenly you've made like $50. What is it? 9 times 7, like $63. So like you can find lots of little flips like this. And again, like I said, if you go higher ASP, it's a little bit easier. For some reason, this is not showing the right item, because this one is also a different item as well. But that's just a little example. When I see 𝗦nci𝗰𝗶𝗹 graphs like this, where almost nobody's in stock, but yet when someone comes in stock, there starts to be sales activity. I like these key bars a lot. Especially when I see like there's tons of people who are selling it before, and then suddenly this lower box here basically shows how much stock there is at any given time. So there was a lot of stock back in 2015, 16, 17, this blue line down in this area. And then this black line is the used offers. And so eventually this went out of circulation for whatever reason. And over the last several years, there's been people coming in and out of stock on a very irregular basis. And they end up selling out once they go in stock. So you'll start to build patterns like this as well that you recognize, and that will help with your potential profit per month, because you're going to be a little sharper to make better sourcing decisions. And you can't just watch a 10-minute YouTube video and like have a complete grasp of sourcing. But you can pick up little habits here and there and implement them into your business. And then you buy something like this and you're like, oh my gosh, this actually sold in like 11 days, like pretty good. And then you start to see this pattern over and over. And things really do start to compound once you do this. We got Raspy in the house. I love you, Checkmate. Good to see you, Raspy. Appreciate you. So yeah, that's kind of the blueprint of how to make more money in your reselling business. There's so many different ways to get the job done. You can do eBay to Amazon in probably 10, 15 ways. Let's see. You could literally just do books. You could literally just do used books. You could just do DVDs. You could just do used DVDs. You could do only vintage toys. You could do office products like printers. You could do calculators. There's literally people's storefront names that they literally just do calculators. There's so many different types of electronics. There's a lot of different types of health and household items, like medical devices, obviously stuff that doesn't seem sketchy, but there's so many different ways to do it. Some people like Raspy does Amazon to Amazon. You can do thrift stuff from thrift stores. You can do stuff from estate sales. You could buy storage units. You could buy stuff from garage sales. And again, with all of these different models, you could just go after video games. Some people literally just go after video games. You can do each of these models with different item focuses as well. Like there's just so many different ways to do it. Like when I got started, for example, like my whole ecosystem mindset was just used clothing. Like I didn't even think of selling something as new. And then when I got into Amazon, I just sold used books from thrift stores and estate sales. And I kind of didn't realize that I could sell other stuff on Amazon, but there's so many different ways to make money selling online, even just on eBay or Amazon. And once you actually start to make some money with one or another, you kind of start to see like, you could probably make it work just selling used books, or you could just make it work doing Amazon to Amazon. There's people I know who literally buy stuff from the United States and sell it on the United Kingdom Amazon marketplace. There's just so many ways to get the job done. And it is completely time for people to stop saying Amazon's saturated. There's no way to make money. Like the harsh truth is like literally you need to just do a little bit better than the status quo and actually build up some of these skills and these improvements in your business so that you're not stuck saying Amazon is saturated because you're not able to find any products, because there are lots of products. You just need to make improvements in your business in order to actually be able to find products on a consistent basis. Like Raspy says Amazon to Amazon is amazing. But probably when he started Amazon to Amazon, he wasn't finding too much of anything for at least the first several hours that he did it. But he stuck with it, and now he has something that is very sustainable and good for him. And he's going to continue to be ahead of the competition if he keeps actually treating life like a learning game. Like, life is a learning game. And like, I understand, like, when you guys are at the beginning, it's really hard. It's really intimidating. Maybe you came from a broken home where your parents wouldn't even buy you stuff off the value menu at McDonald's, and like, money's scarce and money is to be saved. And I'm going to yell at this customer because they made a $10 return in my store. And like, life is just a very scarce place to you. But the reality is like, slowly over time, break out of that belief, and suddenly over time you can build those beliefs that, you know, like, life actually, there's a lot that can be done in good and positive ways. And that goes for everything. Money, relationships, health. Like, you better believe those 56-year-olds always make the excuse like, oh, my knees are bad. Like, bro, your knees are bad because you haven't walked or sprinted in the last 10 years, man. Being super, super blunt, but like momentum works both ways. If you lose all your momentum and don't take advantage of things when you have the chance to, suddenly you do have a harder time. But like, once you start to build momentum with reselling, with your health, spiritually, in other areas of your life, like, things do start to improve. And one of the best ways to actually make improvements in this, because a lot of really good sellers have said Amazon and reselling is 20% technical, the actual skills that you need, and 80% mental. People say it in a bunch of different ways, but in a big way, this is like relatively accurate. I don't know if it's those percentages or what, but it's a big percentage mental, because like, all of us come in with beliefs about the world, about eBay, about Amazon, about IP claims, about suspension, about sourcing, about everything in this game. And, you know, those beliefs sometimes need to be changed. And the best way to change those beliefs is to actually get to know another seller in person, if possible, over a Discord group or over messages. That's better than just not knowing anyone as well. And you can actually start to build a relationship with a person, and you actually, you start to take on some of their beliefs. And like, that's what happened with me and 𝗦cie met in early 2022 at a Miami seller conference. And at that point, I was selling eBay to Amazon, but I was only selling used. And like, I completely thought it was 100% unsafe to sell new items on any kind of scale at all. Like, at that point, I had done books. I'd done a little eBay to Amazon. All of my eBay to Amazon was used. I had sold the occasional book as new. Like, when it was so extreme, like, I found a shrink wrapped like wisdom Bible or something like that, weird niche Bible. That it was going to be like $400 new or like $50 used. So it was like, okay, I'll take the risk on that one. But like, in most situations, I wouldn't sell anything new on Amazon because I didn't have a receipt. Or like, so like, when you actually have a relationship with someone who you're helping them, they're helping you, and it's a helpful relationship for both people, you start to take on some of their beliefs. And yeah, beliefs are such a big deal. in reselling and in whatever you do. So I would encourage you guys to try to reach out to someone who is in a similar boat to you. It might be hard to do that in person. Like, I don't even know tons of people in person, like, who live in my area anyways, who resell at a serious level. But like, reaching out to people just in messages is helpful. And come in with value. Like, don't expect to like just don't message them and be like, hey, what are your most profitable leads? Like, come in with value, try to help them. Yeah, some of my best selling relationships have come like that. But you'll basically find little minute ways to increase your potential profit per month and per week. And you do that over time and good things will happen. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to be part of a Discord group,